everybody. Welcome to another wonderful episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. My name is Jordan, with a silent PH, and I am joined always by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucian, over at Sir Lucian Gaming. Good morning, Sir Lucian.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, Australian friends, if you're watching and you're up late.
We have our UK
welcome.
friend who's very, very regular here. And,
probably getting ready for dinner, right, for them over in UK. They're
like it's afternoon there.
I heard.
The afternoon
be careful.
show. Yeah.
Be careful over there, because I heard there's a lot of flooding in Europe.
Germany.
I just noticed a couple
Germany
of
has
articles.
A lot of flooding right now, so yeah. Be careful.
Careful, guys.
Kind of spooky. And there's this actually is an interesting thing to talk about that could relate to RPGs. There's a wobble in the moon, apparently, that because of rising sea levels and stuff, this wobble has been happening for a long time, but now it is going to have a greater gravitational impact on Earth, and they think there's going to be a lot more flooding because more water is being able to be shifted around.
So we're seeing like a change in the science.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I was thinking about that as a role-playing aspect. Like, what if that was like, okay, every 300 years, the moon, like, wobbles and monsters get released, or I don't know, like it's kind of the same thing like an eclipse, but only like a moon wobble. And so and anyway, what if you have to fly to the moon and take care of it and all that stuff. Be kind of cool.
Very cool.
I love it.
Well, and we've been talking a lot about, me and Jordan off camera, about planetary shapes and cool ways to use planets or what different shapes. So how weather's affected,
we finally last week we finally were like, we need to like really think about this like cliff at the end of the world campaign.
Yeah.
And so we've been talking a lot about that and got a Google Doc going so we can kind of share ideas. And that's what we were just talking about before the show started. Is I like the idea, because you were saying, like, is it like a flat Earth and you just go down, or is it like two halves of a hemisphere or something? And and I, right before we went on, typical Lucian fashion, he likes to ask me questions and then unmutes
2
my
minutes
mic.
before.
And so I couldn't answer. But when I think of the edge of the world, I do literally think of just a sky that goes forever.
Yeah.
You look down and like maybe you see clouds, maybe it's just like on a clear day you can see a good like 2 or 3 miles straight down. But and these weird perpetual sunsets, because the sun will go down, but because it's not a curved space, you still get lots of light radii up until it gets all the way underneath, So I wonder if you have like, I don't know, an extremely long night and an extremely long sunset. Because the sun will rise, and you're like, okay, the sun rises, but it never really goes down until it goes underneath that. So,
and not to do the whole show on it, but you could also do the globe to where the sun goes around where the globe has been cut in half. So it's always sun. It's never not without sun the way it rotates. So it could be some interesting things that you could explore. Maybe that's how Dark Sun happens. All of a sudden you get the deserts and the super long days, and or you get something, like some of those other movies like Pitch Black, where they talk about they're on a planet that I think goes for 42 days of night or daytime, and then several days of night, and that's when the monsters comes out, and that's when the creatures comes out. So interesting stuff.
Yeah. So
I see Glammy.
Hello. So speaking of that, I just got a Kickstarter yesterday fulfilled, the PDF. And I forgot the name of it, so I'm going to open it really fast. But it's the Desert Moon. Yes, Desert Moon of Karth. Nice. So this was a Kickstarter that I backed because the art is amazing. It's for the Mothership RPG. Which is
Mothership.
That scary one. Yeah. And so it's a setting and like a place you could stop in, and it's the Desert Moon of Karth, and it's like, here's all the cool things in it, and people live in craters and things like that. But it did talk about, like, because of the other planets, and it's a moon, and its rotation to the planet that it is immune to, not immune to, but immune to, that they have like 2 or 3 weeks of darkness for every week of sunlight or something. And I was like, man, that is so cool. Like, I like the idea of that going around and stuff. And then how your whole civilization has to be built around that. You know? So.
And I was thinking about our edge, that cliff. and water coming off of it. So when the ocean drains off that edge, what does water do when it falls down a really long, because you're talking miles, you're not just talking 100 feet and then it hits bottom and it turns into a river again, like the Niagara Falls or something. You're talking about it falls so long it's no longer water, it becomes dispersed into moisture in the air, and then I think it would just build clouds, and then those clouds would slowly start to rise back up above the ocean. You'd have big storms in the ocean, all that water would come back down, and it would perpetuate itself, almost like a perpetual water feature that you would put somewhere where the water that's draining is also getting pushed back up so that it can do it again.
Yeah.
And what a sight that would be, like watching torrential water just turn into mist and humidity and spray that eventually turns into the clouds. That's why you can't see much further down. So there's a lot of cool stuff we were exploring a little bit on that campaign world that we've been thinking about.
Yeah.
Super fun.
I also like the idea that there's like a zero gravity area.
Yeah, there has to be, right? Yeah.
And then if people use it as like a trash dump, when the players actually get down there, there's just like thousands of miscellaneous broken objects or stuff that nobody wanted, and you're like,
it's like looking at the bottom of the ocean. It's like the bottom of the ocean, just sediment and bones of whales sitting down there and just have been down there forever.
Crustaceans.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. But we had a whole bunch of stuff going on. D&D Live is going on. There's a whole bunch of books got announced and sort of leaked day before-ish stuff. People are making videos all over. The whole community, YouTube community's up and making a lot of content about stuff that got announced. So we got a lot of cool D&D stuff.
I definitely was like, the people are like, hey, you're going to make what's his name? Yeah, Fizban. You're going to get a Fizban video out? I'm like, unless I don't want to sleep, I don't know. And so I haven't. I was like, that's probably a next week Jordan problem, but if I had released it on Wednesday, that would have been pretty cool. So the new book is Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. And that, so going backwards, we had the Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I'm getting my W's mixed up, but yeah, the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which is a 1 to 8 adventure. They announced that, and then they announced a November book, which was the Magic the Gathering Strixhaven book.
Yep.
But there was a mystery book in the middle that we're like, we don't know what it is, and that's what Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. And this is going to be a monster manual, kind of a few subclasses, and a lore book. And they described it really well by saying like it's like a Mordenkainen's Tome of Monsters or whatever that book was called.
Foes.
Yeah, Tome of Foes. Because that had a lot of information on
Volo's Guide,
Eladrin, and all this other stuff. And then there were races in there as well. And I don't think that had any class features, but this one has 2 subclasses: the Monk Dragon and the Ranger Dragon. I don't remember their names.
Which I thought were really cool because they were cool UA articles that we all saw not too long ago. I'm curious to see how they make it into the book because usually there's some tweaking there, but they were cool in the UA articles for sure.
It's all about dragons and has a bunch of dragon lairs and stuff. And I saw in an interview that this book utilizes the Theros super monster style, where they have a lair, but they also have like, well, no, just like in Theros, some of the monsters in Theros, you would get to like 50% their hit points, and they would like switch into hard mode or something. And so it was like a different combat, but the same monster kind of a thing to keep players on their toes. And I haven't yet to run stuff. No, I did. I modeled Miska the Wolf Spider for Rod of 7 Parts off of one of those monsters in Theros. And it made for a fun fight, fun campaign. So,
Yeah, nice shift in the middle of the combat at some point where something starts to get drastic.
And it's kind of cool. And 4th edition did that a lot, where like monster mechanics would change when they turned bloody. Because, and 5th edition hasn't done a lot of that. Although I'm thinking of, there's certain monsters like the the Sahagwin? Sahagwin. If you are missing hit points, they get like a blood frenzy and they get advantage and stuff, I think. But they'll fight to the death, basically. So this book also introduces gem dragons. What do you know about gem dragons, Lucian?
The only thing I know about gem dragons is the Matt Colville book that introduced dragons.
So I thought that was funny because we had some people in the Discord that were like, so is Matt getting like royalties or something? I thought this was
actually
a Matt
know
Colville thing.
they existed before,
But they existed
and they were only
before,
talked
yeah.
at a little bit. But he definitely dove into them. He had cool miniatures made of them. They were part of Kickstarter's, progress steps during his campaign, and he really dove into them, and they looked really cool. I liked his version of them. I'll be interested to see their version of it. I don't know. I've never had a campaign where I've said, man, you know what I'm lacking is I'm missing a ruby dragon. If I had some ruby dragons in a monster manual somewhere, I could really make this campaign work.
Yeah.
But maybe now after I read them or get to them, I would. I thought it was kind of, my comment to the whole thing was with the dragons is that it's a tough book for me because I feel like in all the adventures that I've been a part of in the last 5 years, I think 2 dragons have kind of shown up, and they were good guy dragons. We didn't really fight them anyways.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to put a book on of something that doesn't get used in campaigns a ton, or if it does, it's a big thing in your campaign and then it's done with. Like it's a big battle. Maybe you fight a red dragon or maybe you fight a black dragon or something, and that's your capstone to a campaign chapter or something. But it's not like every episode's going to be tackling dragon stuff. It doesn't seem like,
Well, and I'm wondering if this is going towards Dragonlance as a setting where dragons are way more prevalent, or I should say dragons are more in tune with the story, because Eberron is the same way. There's lots of dragons in Eberron, but they're all kind of like keeping to themselves. You rarely have to interact with them. I don't know. I think a book like this would encourage people to utilize dragons more. And
possibly.
I love dragons, and so to have like have the history of like how they grew up and what one of the things they asked was, or said that it's going to explain why dragons hoard magical objects. And I was like, that would be cool to just have a reason, I guess, and then you're kind of like, okay, like I know that, this Lich's phylactery is being held by this red dragon because of X, Y, and Z. And so it'd be kind of cool.
I know a lot of other people were saying, they were mentioning Dragonomicon, which was a book that had come out before. So it's not like we haven't had
those,
a full Dragonon book. So it's not unheard of. We play a game called Dungeons and Dragons, so have a book based on dragons. But when do we get the Dungeonomicon then? Or when do we get Fizban's Treasury of Dungeons? That sounds super kind of fun too. Or living dungeons and stuff built around just dungeons. I think that would be kind of cool. So.
Silver Belay, friend of Silver Belay because we played that game together. But he was asking, are gem dragons neutral? Because we have chromatic dragons are evil and metallic dragons are good, and they are. They are the neutral dragons in between. They kind of pick sides when they want to. They're also psychic. Like a lot of them have interesting elemental affinities, and so they'll do like radiant damage or psychic. I think one of them has like a psychic breath that I talked about in a video. I did a video on the Sapphire Dragon because they introduced that through a supplement for 5th edition D&D, and they have like chunks of themselves or gem that are kind of like held together psychically, which I thought was really cool, or through not psychically but telekinetically. And there is something else that I thought was really cool is you could be a dragon, dragonborn, but you could have a gem background. So I could be like a ruby dragonborn, and I've never wanted to play a dragonborn until now where I'm like, I absolutely want to be like the Sapphire Dragonborn. I thought that would be really cool. So
well, and with dragons, you have the chromatic and the metal. And usually it's the same number on each side, right? Because they've always been. But then if you throw in the gems, are we going to have the same number of gems? Because there's lots of different types of gems.
There is,
that you could name a dragon after. Are they going to be a bigger number of possibilities? How do they fit in the struggle of the chromatic and the metallic?
Yeah.
How are they part of the fight? Why haven't they been in the fight till now? What are they doing that keeps them away, and we haven't really talked about them? So it'd be interesting if they dive into the lore, or at least I hope they dive into the lore.
No, I know that for some reason the god of all gem dragons is a ruby dragon, and I can't remember his name, but he's in a ruby citadel thing that orbits the Forgotten Realms. And so if you ever see this like red star in the sky, that's this ruby dragon's home, and so I'm wondering if that will come into
Nice.
place too.
How do we go there?
And he's very powerful, and yeah, like how do you get there? Wouldn't that be cool? Like that's a whole adventure. That would be so neat. But I always thought it was weird because usually it's like the platinum dragon or the white ones are kind of more powerful, but this one was a ruby dragon. I don't know why, but anyway. I'm sure I have a video about it. I'll try to link it down below if you guys are interested.
Once we see it.
So
have we seen a date on this one?
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing a date.
October 19th.
So that's the October book.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, Wild Beyond the Witchlight very soon. August, September.
I believe so.
And then October, and then November for
Strixhaven.
Mm-hmm.
Strixhaven. I think of the three, I hate to say it, I think Strixhaven has me the most interested.
Why?
I know it's a Magic the Gathering setting, but because it feels like it's going to have more player options, and it feels more like a setting I want to run. Although I may pull a piece from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, it doesn't feel like I'm going to focus a whole campaign around all of it, but I guess I could.
I think you really could.
Like, I mean, if you do like an Onyx Dragon or some cool dragon type, gem type that you could build a whole world around. What about Wild Beyond the Witchlight for you?
Well,
for me,
before we switch, I want to ask you, like, because more information came out about Strixhaven too, and I don't know if you knew about this. So it's gonna,
I might not have.
It's got D&D. It's got adventures. 4 adventures are going to be in this Strixhaven book. Ooh. That will let you run a campaign from 1 to 10.
Nice.
So that's kind of cool. There's the new playable race is the owl, the owlin, which is an owl folk. Then you'll have new magical creatures and NPCs, and then you have the new magical classes. So this one also, like, I was curious if you want to incorporate this, because I think in order to really get the Strixhaven feel, you can't be a fighter. Maybe you could multi-class into other stuff, but the idea is that you are a bard or a warlock or a wizard or a cleric. Like, you
magical
have to have
school,
some kind of magical powers.
Something. Yeah.
So, do you still feel the same? Are you still that excited?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I love it. I love the idea of running that campaign, even if they have that kind of limitation. Then if you're going to, like, if my player says, but I really want to play a fighter, then I'm going to say, well, how do we flavor that so it's very magical in nature? Are you like a sword singer? What is it that allows you to be a fighter, but it's still done in a magical way? So they let you into the magical college of whatever it is. And maybe it is moving things around with telekinesis type powers, or, mage hand is the thing that swings your sword. You're an expert at letting mage hand swing a sword or something. And that's your style, and that's how it works, or something like that. But so you'd want the group to buy into the campaign setting you're
I think
creating.
I'd have to, to really, and I mean, I love casters, and I know a lot of other people that love casters, so I think it wouldn't be a hard buy-in. Like, there isn't somebody who's like, oh, we're going to be in a mage school or a mage school. I want to be a barbarian. You're like, well, come on. Like,
I hate magic. I'll never touch it.
So if you're doing a dark, although I do like the idea of I think we've talked about this before, where it's like everybody's the same class but a different subclass, which would work really well with a bard. I think if everyone was a bard or a cleric, or wizard, I don't know if you could survive, but mostly because you don't have that healing. So.
But imagine this: you have competitions between the bard colleges and the wizard schools and the sorcerers, whatever enclaves, or you give them all names, and they come together and they do battles with for school pride and stuff. And I just think, oh, that'd be really cool. If you have a campaign that's built around, we're a bunch of wizards and we're figuring out, but we got to go fight the bards, and how that's different. The bards are going to send their best fighters, and it's like, it's like sharks.
Like crazy.
Yeah. It's like we can do dance battle offs and everything.
I wonder if Strixhaven will have your dueling, your magic dueling that we were talking about. So.
Yeah, we need cool duel mechanics for 2 people really dueling, and it'd be fun. Yeah. Really
more than just counterspelling your counterspell. I would like.
Yeah. So Strixhaven's is my most excited I'm for. I bet Fizban's will be the one that surprises me, that I end up liking more than I think I'm going to like. And then Wild Beyond the Witchlight, I think, is going to be a good book for a lot of people, but I bet it's the book that I bounce off of and I don't quite dive into. Even though me and you have been talking, we want Feywild. We want the Shadowfell more described, and more Feywild stuff, and more of this and that. More planes and more existences that cover just not the material plane of Forgotten Realms and Sword Coast. But I don't know. What about you?
Well, I want to jump in and say thank you, Steve,
Steve.
Zerk, for donating $10 to the show. That's
Steve
very nice of you.
Steve's a cool Zerk.
He wants to ask a question saying, if you could make a character from a book series part of D&D, Wizards of the Coast official, what would you choose? Like, if you could just import one into, this is now canon.
The 5 demon bag sorcerer from Big Trouble in Little China.
That's pretty good.
I'm sure it's a book. But that is the class I've always wanted to build. I still may build it, and I wish it was in the game. The 5 bag.
That's really good.
Demon sorcerer.
Yeah. That's just a cool name. Like,
I
that's
loved
cool.
it.
That's awesome. So yeah, Wild Beyond the Witchlight. A lot of information came out about this. There's a great interview with now named game architect Chris Perkins.
Yeah, game architect.
he got a promotion somehow. He's not lead writer or whatever. He's now head game architect, which I thought was interesting and fun to put on your resume. Wild Beyond the Witchlight, they talk about. I took notes because I wanted to actually talk about this. We said 1 to 8 adventure, and from what I was reading, it's going to be kind of like Ravenloft, where it's modular in the sense. So if you do want to run it as a one shot and have your friends go experience the carnival, they can run around and have a good time. Otherwise, the carnival is a gateway to various parts of the Feywild.
Yeah.
And they're introducing this new idea called Domains of Delight, which is counter the Ravenloft Domains of Dread, which is also interesting because I thought that they would tie Domains of Delight to something more Shadowfell-y, and I wonder if the Ravenloft is supposed to be Shadowfell, or if that book is coming at some other point.
Yeah, right. Well, and the map they give in that book I saw, because I was watching a little bit of the video, was they have Hither, Tither, and Yon.
Yeah.
And how they're 3 different places, and they are very Domains of Dread, like where you can put in those mists anywhere, and you happen to stumble upon them no matter what campaign world you're running, if you want to throw it into your campaign that you run.
So by definition, a Domain of Delight is a sequestered realm ruled by an Archfey. And this also makes me wonder if we'll start getting some Archfey books. I know that Kobold Press has some really good top tier Archfey that you can put in your game. But I don't think there's a lot in the D&D books, like the Wizards of the Coast. So this adventure is going to take place in a domain called Prismere. And this is something they've created for this, for this game. The lore is really changing, but we've never really established the Feywild. I don't think they ever wanted to
canonize it. We've touched it.
Well, no, Wizards of the Coast. I don't think they've ever here's a map of the Feywild, because the idea is that you do get lost or things happen. So this is a way for them to say you could stumble upon this, but you don't necessarily need to. 40 miles north is Yon, and you're going to go over there and things like that. And in the video, Chris did a really good job of explaining, there might not be a road to where you need to go. Or if you get on the road, it leads in a circle back to where you started, and you have to figure out the puzzle to kind of get to where you want to go. Something else that was really cool is that Chris Perkins said in that interview that this 1 to 8 adventure, you could do the whole thing with 0 combat. They're incorporating puzzles and other alternative solutions to every combat-ish experience in the whole game. And I wonder how many pacifist run-throughs we're going to get of this game, just like some of those other games like Undertale and stuff, where it's you can beat the whole game without actually fighting anybody. So
right.
I don't know.
I wonder, and that when I heard that, I thought that was interesting. I love combat. That's the antithesis of what I want in a game. But I thought it was interesting because I was thinking, wait a minute, could we have done Tomb of Annihilation with no combat? Could we have done any of these other ones? And I think you could, if your DM was super flexible and allowed you to be creative and come up with ways while you were avoiding all of the combat and how you were getting out of all of the combats that were there and all of the dangers of the world. So I thought it was kind of interesting. That feels like it'd be a pretty small niche group that doesn't want to fight, because when I'm making a character and I make my barbarian and we're going to play an adventure where there's no combat, does that mean I never really rage? Does that mean I never really get to use I'm an orc barbarian. I get to roll 17, 18, 19 on a crit success, but guess what? We don't have any combat, so I'm never going to get to use that ability.
Yeah, I mean, 90% of the game is
so that's a weird
things that help you get through combat. You know, if nobody's I completely agree, and so it's kind of it would be a very interesting game. I was like, okay, I'm curious about this, but the minute that Chris Perkins said that, where you could go like completely pacifist with it, I was kind of like, okay, now I'm really interested, and I want to read this adventure. I don't know if I want to run it, but I really want to read through it because I'm curious about that aspect of game design with it. So we'll see.
And still see how it being fun. And I think you could do it. Is it the game you'd want to play all the time? Maybe not, but I think it'd be cool to try it, like a stealth run of your favorite video game where you're trying to go in stealth through it as much as possible before you're found out, versus just running into the room and gunning everything down. There's lots of ways you can get around that. Those Metal Gear Solid games where people are specifically doing speed runs, not trying to do combat as much as they can, finding quick routes around things to get to the end.
Well, that's what I was talking about, like the pacifist mode or something. I think there's a World of Warcraft about that too, where people some guy don't actually fight, but you level
get
up
to 60 by not killing anything somehow, but you just do quests and you do
crafting or something. I didn't play World of
Warcraft. So, and again, to me that's super interesting one time, but it's not like that's what I'm going to do in every game I play, or that's I'm going to make 5 characters that does that.
Just like D&D in a way, so it's kind of interesting. Like, so you should play a different game if that is what you want. So but we'll see. Maybe D&D is shifting. I didn't tell you this, but I got a module that I bought on the recommendation of Sly Flourish called Knife to Be Here.
I saw that on Discord.
And now I'm gonna open that up because
it was like a 5e adventure, but it's
using 5e mechanics, but it looked like a 1980s horror.
But Freddy and
it's 5e compatible. So I haven't read through it yet.
Yeah, I think
Sly Flourish was saying it was really cool. And my point of bringing that up is I wonder if people are figuring out how to manipulate the 5e rules.
Make everybody
to get
a peasant.
More people into odd style of gameplay like this. We're talking about being a pacifist in the Feywild. What if it's like, okay, you guys are familiar with 5e. We're going to run this game now. It's a one-shot. So the rules are kind of similar. Like, you have a D20 system, blah, blah, blah. But, like, maybe they've... maybe you're not a wizard or something, and we have to figure out how to
you just use the stat block. You just let somebody run a stat block, and that stat block is common teenager or whatever, or commoner, and you have hit points, you have your stats on there, and then you role play normally. You just happen to be having a small condensed monster stat block or NPC stat block instead of a full-fledged level 20 character that you're building. And because our brains could easily, right now, me and you could play that game and not shift anything because the mechanics are so good. I'd be like, all right, teenage Jordan, there's cabin right in front. There's no lights on in the cabin. It looks like nobody's been here for years. What do you do? And you could just start role playing. You don't have to have anything. You're just, I don't know, I go up to the door. Oh, there's some bad guy there. What do you do? I punch him. Is there something I can grab? I grab a big log and I hit him. All right, roll to hit. Combat initiative.
I love Kids on Bikes because the minute I was reading this, I'm like, well, why isn't this a Kids on Bike book? But I think it's easier to get people who are familiar with 5e into alternative role-playing games through 5e. And so I thought this was a really cool product.
Like, do I hear anything? Roll perception.
So it's called Knife to Know You. It's got a really fun cover, and I don't know. But I haven't read it. I don't know if I recommend it just yet, but I'm intrigued by the idea.
Like the idea of it, at least at this point.
But Sly Flourish read it, and he said he really liked it. So
very cool.
There's also a dice set coming out with Wild Beyond the Witchlight. We've seen this a lot. I realized that I have the Silver Moon one. which was Explorer's Guide or something that wasn't actually tied to anything. And I have the Baldur's Gate one, but I never picked up the Icewind Dale dice because they looked too similar to the other dice that I got. Right. So I don't know, but
very interesting. 3 books.
3 books.
That'll get us out through the rest of the year, and then we'll see what comes for the next year. D&D Live is going on, so there's a bunch of celebrity games happening right now. I jumped in a couple of them and watched some of them. There's some charity stuff running at the same time, so they're doing some charity stream stuff. Ted is, and I always think Ned because it's nerd immersion, but Ted is running video after video. He's running himself ragged making videos, so you can go check his stuff out.
So if you if you want the Too Long Didn't Read, you can go check out a lot of Ted's videos. He's talking about it.
And there's a lot up on D&D right now too.
Yeah. So. But I'm sure more information, they're going to tease this a whole bunch as more things come out.
Oh, my question for you about Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
Yes.
We wanted a Feywild book. And if you said, Jordan, what's the Feywild book you'd want before you saw anything that they've listed here in Wild Beyond the Witchlight? What Feywild book did you want? And is this anywhere close to what you thought they were going to bring out for a Feywild book? If they said, we're bringing a Feywild book out, we have a couple of months just to speculate. Was this what you thought we were getting?
No. Well, I knew this was an adventure, but it's not necessarily what I want.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is surprising, but I really liked Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, and I liked that we had like all of Ravenloft, but there's little sub pockets, and I can pick and choose which one I want to use. It's all kind of like divvied up like that. There's not a strict adventure, but there is like you could go here and here and here, and here's the Archfey that does this, and here's their secret. I would love something like that for the Feywild. You know, and if they're going this Domain of Delight route, maybe we'll see that. And maybe it will be like, here's, Prismeer with this Archfey, and here's the Jocular Junction with its Archfey or something, and it's got this kind of a theme, and it's, I don't know, autumn themed, and here's the
you just said the
Prince
thing I
of
want to point out.
You know? And
that's what I wanted.
So.
I wanted the courts of the seasons, and I wanted it to be this. We find out that there's a world somehow wrapped around the world we're in, and you
there's
sometimes slide into it.
Fae and the Unseelie,
but there is a huge battle going on between the courts of winter, summer,
Dresden
spring,
style.
and fall. And who are the Fae that are associated with that? And what do those lands look like? And what is the big battle over? And why are they fighting all the time? And why does it sometimes come into our world and sometimes we get pulled into their world? That's what I was looking for, this big kind of, because I love the idea of the courts, and then you'd have your cool Archfey that's the head of that court, and what does that look like, and some really cool aesthetics to that, and kind of like the Eladrian kind of push us to almost in that way when they described those and brought them in as a race that we could play, almost like, hey, there's a whole Fey world out there that could be influenced by mood and in the seasons and the way the world kind of turns. And I thought that was the book I really wanted. I wasn't ready for the cupcakes and we're going to play a Care Bears and unicorns and the whimsical, because that was the word they used. Like the whimsical. Oh, this is going to be fun. We're going to find out who stole the pie off of, the baker's window seal, and there's like
I think
it'll be a little parable in there. The well, you could go the Grim Tales.
It will be like, who stole the pie? And then you find a human hand in it. And you're like, wait, what?
I think you could. You could go the grim fairy tale way.
I think
but would that be a Domain of Delight? That seems like a Domain of Horror to me.
Yeah. Well, they're using Domain of Delight, I think, as an antithesis of Domain of Dread. But I think, which you're right. I mean, people read that and they're just like, is this Care Bears? Maybe it's bad marketing. But I think that's also the Feywild. I think you look at it and you're like, what a beautiful place. And then you see the under evil that actually exists there and how, oh no, like I'm happy. I've just been an indentured servant to this guy for the last 800 years. So like, what? Like,
but everything's great.
Leave,
But everything's great. Why would I want to leave?
Everything's great. Fake smiles and stuff like that. So yeah.
It could be, I think if you run it that way, I think then I'm a little bit more in. But they also talked about it being very more whimsical.
So, it will be. I think the humor in the 5e books is not going to stop with this. If anything, it's going to be amped up.
Yeah, it's going to be the great
a lot of silly stuff. So.
Yeah, you're going to play Pooh Stories and the Great Honey Heist. And
the Great Honey Heist of '07.
Yeah,
we all remember
that kind of stuff. But all right, well, those were pretty good. Those were, and one more question, because now we know the mystery books. We know we got a Feywild, we got a Fizban's that's loosely linked to Dragonlance, but we didn't really get a Dragonlance book.
No, and
because they
it's
said
linked in the sense that Fizban is a Dragonlance character.
Yeah, but in some of the ways they talked,
it's not Dragonlance.
Yeah, we were getting some old campaigns coming back books, and that hasn't necessarily happened.
Pushed to 2021 or 2022, I think.
So maybe we're still waiting for those types of books that are coming, but we didn't get them yet.
Ravenloft was one. I'm fairly confident Dragonlance is one, just because of stuff like it's. I don't know, the books coming out, the novels and things like that. And there's just been a lot of Dragonlance talk. But the third one, I don't know. Like, I was thinking it was going to be a Feywild book or something. Maybe it will be a Feywild Shadowfell book. If this adventure does well, maybe it will be that. Who knows? But you commented all the time that they know the book release dates like 2 years in advance or something. Yeah, 2 years.
They start them early.
So they already know everything. It's probably 90% done at this point. So who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you playing any Magic the Gathering, Lucian?
I played last night, Jordan. I tried to.
With your cards, your brand new Magic the Gathering Forgotten
They
Realms
do
cards.
not make the beginning player or player who's come back after a year experience easy to figure out what the hell's going on. They have a great presentation once you understand where things are and you kind of get an idea of how it works. But man, just sitting and staring at that screen for last night, I was like, how do I play a game? How do I get the Forgotten Realm cards?
Yeah.
How do I? They're like, you got to buy packs, but where do I get the money to buy packs? I know you can play this game without putting real money in. Plenty of people do it. But they don't make that easy for you at first. You got to dig a little bit for it. But then you kind of find how the play button can interact with different things, and some things are tournaments you buy into and some are not. So I'm slowly getting through that and remembering how that works. But man, the cards look really cool. And the opponents I played last night kicked the crap out of me with some really cool Magic the Gathering decks. I mean, they looked fantastic. And Danimal's been talking on the Discord about all the things he's been doing with like a thief deck he's put together.
He put
a rogue deck,
Yeah, so if you guys are interested,
this is so cool.
We got a little channel in the Discord now where we've been talking about Magic the Gathering, and I've added a bot so you can like bring up cards really easy to talk about things. And we've been having a good time, and people are showing some screenshots and stuff. We've got like card mechanic talks, and it's got me all like, I'm getting kind of interested in it.
I'm excited for next Friday, because next Friday we're going to be able to go to the stores, or whatever you've ordered is going to come in. We're going to be able to get some unboxing done on Saturday's show. Yeah. And we're going to get to see these really cool cards and artwork and mechanics and see all these things that we know about. Like I was playing, and I was telling George just before we started, the guy I played last night had a cleric deck, and the first creature he threw down on the table was a roper. Yeah. And then it had cool mechanics to it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is super cool. And then his cleric finally got leveled up, and he started leveling his cleric up, and it was getting more and more abilities for his cleric. And I was just like, this is super cool. I just have regular Magic cards, and I'm trying to fight you, but all that stuff over there that you're doing, then Icy Death comes down, the white dragon. I'm like, yeah, but I'm the one that's dying.
Me. No.
So it's pretty cool. I can't wait to get a deck of it and start building some sets and start getting into it. I'm super interested.
I don't think I'm going to actually get into Magic as a whole, but I do want to collect this set, and that could get very expensive. We'll see.
This could be I get off the wagon. Like I've been on the straight and narrow. I've been going to the AA meetings, and I've had my token forever. I haven't dipped back in, guys. I've been really good, but I might be falling off the wagon pretty soon. So it could happen. That addiction to collectible card games is a strong pull. I mean, you remember you had Pokemon. You played the Pokemon stuff, right?
A lot of Pokemon. Well, I played Pokemon up until I think they released a second set of cards.
Yeah.
And then it clicked in my middle school, like maybe I was a 9th grade head, where I'm like, I'll never be able to collect all the cards. because they're just going to always make more. Like in my mind, I was like, if I can get enough of the base set of cards, but I was like, yeah, I don't have money for this. So.
But if they were going to do like a team up, Magic the Gathering and Pokemon, and they were going to do a Pokemon base set in the Magic the Gathering style of game, would you be excited?
I don't know.
Would that be like a clash of cool
Pokemon
titans?
For a while, but like that would be kind of interesting. Where you're
do you
like,
think your son will get into Pokemon?
I'm gonna play my Icing Death card versus Raichu or something.
Right, right. Just something funny. You have.
Too funny.
So, I want to get to the dungeon piece where you can dive into the dungeons and get things. And there's adventure cards with the actual art from the adventures that look fantastic. I mean. This set has really cool blown my mind of what they've done with Magic. I mean, it has blown my mind. So I'm excited, if you can't tell.
And yeah, so next week, Friday, I'm gonna go to my local game store and I'm gonna record a video. I might talk to random people. I don't know. I'm just gonna like have fun and I'm gonna pick up my cards and then Saturday we can unbox a couple cards here or open a couple packs. But I might do a live stream Saturday night and just like. Casual, let's just talk about Magic. We'll see what's going on. But Lucian, are you playing some Dungeon of the Mad Mage? What's going on with your
Dungeon of the Mad Mage
life? I guess we'll get out of
we had a great discussion last week about I've got this Arcane Archer level 6 and Cleric 3, Twilight Cleric 3. We leveled up, and I had to make the big decision before we played on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Do I go Arcane Archer 7 because there's some cool abilities there, or do I go Cleric 4, which has also got some cool abilities, and I could take a feat, which could also help and start building into that strong Cleric class. And I decided that after, me and Jordan were talking about it, and then I started to have images in my head about how it would look, and I had to go the Arcane Archer 7 to get the bending arrow. And I didn't need magic arrow because I had the magic bow, which we've all ruled that when you have a magic bow, then when your arrow hits, it's considered magic damage, not just considered regular piercing damage. So it wasn't like I couldn't hit things that were immune to non-magical attacks. But this is the point where they put that in. If you didn't have that and you're just using a regular bow still at this point, every arrow you shoot out of a regular bow as an Arcane Archer now, once you hit 7, is considered a magical attack and it can affect people that. So that's nice to have if I ever needed it, but didn't really need it. But the bending arrow, this mechanic of you fire, and if you miss, you can reroute that arrow to another creature within 60 feet, use your bonus action, reroll to attack. That came in and changed the look of my character like immediately. I'm already this Arcane Archer hitting with what I think of as like supersonic arrows. And I've always described it in the game as that it's breaking the sound barrier that it's hitting so hard, because every arrow, because I'm using sharpshooter and I'm pulling back on this big bow and it hits for a ton of damage. When it hits, it's like 20, 21 points, 25 points, 24 points, every arrow I fire. And so we've always kind of cinematically describe that as when one of these creatures get hit, it's just like knocking them back and it's hitting your sounds and it's like a big sonic boom is happening. And now I'm bouncing it off an armor when I make that miss, and then it hammers into somebody else or it curves around and hits some other person. And I just love the idea of this feels like Legolas at the max level. This is, you're doing crazy stuff with arrows that no human can actually do, right? You're into the fantastical world at this point. And I love it. I love describing what it does. I love thinking about how those combats go now, and I think it's great.
Yeah.
So that's fun. We finished level 6 because we had dropped down and then we had to come back up. We are mapping Dungeon of the Mad Mage for Acquisitions Incorporated. We are the Waterdeep branch. We are the misfits of Acquisitions Incorporated. So we get the dirty jobs and they send us down there. And so we find they're going back up. We get to do our downtime. We have like 20 or more days saved up of downtime. And I have, you guys, if you really are going to pick a game to watch, this next one might be the one you watch, because I've worked with the DM and we're thinking about a way to remove a sidekick that I've had with us for a while, because we're playing sidekick rules and those work really well. I really like the expert sidekick. We had a Kenku that was running around with us that we had found out he was turned to stone, and we reversed that, and then he adventured with us, which was kind of a cool story thing. But now I'm thinking that character will go off and do its normal stuff now, and then it's just part of the story.
Okay.
And I'm going to bring in I'm going to use all my downtime and all my money that I've been saving up to purchase a trained combat monstrous creature.
Are you gonna get your displacer beast you want?
I'm hoping. We're gonna see. So I'm gonna try for something like that. Or I always thought another cool one would be like the bullet.
The boulet or
a
whatever.
Train, yeah. However, people want to use that one, or an owl bear, or one of these things that's a monstrous creature, but somebody has taken the time to raise it from young, work with adventurer group, or work with a trainer, and you are able to then have that with you as a trained thing. So
my first game with Nathan as the DM, one of the players found a owlbear egg and raised it. And so it was like he had to do a lot of rolls and stuff when it was still a baby to take care of it. But once it became a mature owlbear, he had this pet that would run around and listen to him. It was fun. So
yeah, I think it'd be cool. And so I thought that'd be a cool aspect to add to the game. It's a cool story to think about one of your cool characters, and I'm hoping this character I have is going to go to 20. So it's going to be one of those full storyline characters that'll have a cool background, and then all the stuff he does between 1 and 20, and then what happens to that character as they go off into the sunset. And almost like the Dritz. I mean, Dritz has his cool companions in his group, and he has the panther, and so it's really cool kind of stuff. It's kind of similar in that way. I think it'd be to run a character like that.
You need an owlbear figure of wondrous power, is what I'm hearing.
So. That was the way I was going to approach it, was to use my downtime to try to find figurines of power, either the rams or the golden lions, or there's a couple of cool ones. There's a raven one.
Yep.
There's a couple cool ones
in there too. There's a fly, an elephant.
Yeah. So very cool. So that's what I'm hoping for. That means we're going to dive back down all the way to 8 now and see what happens when we get down to level 8 of Dungeon of the Mad Mage. So this could be very interesting.
I just want you to find that Spelljammer helm that I know is hidden down somewhere.
It's coming. We find everything, it seems like. It's coming.
That's awesome.
In the level we were in, it was very dwarven centric, and it was like we found like a level of somebody who worshipped a dwarven god, and they had like this museum set up to it and stuff, but and we found like an armory devoted to it and statues and all kinds of cool stuff. So level 6 was really fun. I'm interested to see what the next levels are as we get deeper and deeper that they're themed by. And we'll probably start running into the apprentices of the Mad Mage at this point. I mean, he's got several people that he apprenticed and brought down in there, and they were supposedly have their own levels. So I assume we're going to start hitting some of those things pretty soon too, and get some of that lore, which would be pretty cool. But what about Jordan? What kind of games has Jordan been playing?
I'm playing in a game that Nathan is running, Dungeon Master Nathan, and this is his Nelaloom game. And I've joined later.
Is that the name of his?
That's his homeworld. Yeah, his custom campaign. Yeah.
Very cool.
The planet, maybe the thing. I haven't actually. My character hasn't been there because they got transported to another area on the Prime Material plane, and that's where they met my character, who is the sea elf monk. But yeah, we're exploring places, trying to find some magical. The party needs to find some magical weapons that they believe will be able to get them back to home where they want to go. And I'll probably have to make a decision where I'm like, will my character go with you? I don't know. Like, it's not my home. I'm from here. So, but you brought up a roper earlier, and we fought a modified roper that was a really fun battle, and this thing was trying to like pull us in and devour us in acid. And then on top of that, while we were fighting this roper, these giant rats with their brains exposed, cranium rats, were climbing up and talking to us in our head, being like, you gotta go home, you're not supposed to be here. And we were like, oh no. So that was a lot of fun, attacking those. And I'm using the new stuff from Tasha's for monks, where I can have a dedicated monk weapon. And so I'm proficient with a trident, but because it's a monk weapon, I can use dex with it. And that's been a lot of fun to like run in. And I just like the idea of him having this like Aquaman trident, and I'm attacking a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm having a lot of fun with this Sea Elf character. He's really cool.
Cool.
And then my Eberron game that I play on Friday nights. And if you guys are interested in that, I haven't been tweeting about it. I just need to. But another YouTuber named Kugo the Mighty, he really loves D&D and Eberron, and
I love his name.
Is running this game, and we're having a lot of fun with it. Like a lot of fun. It's really good. We're level 3. He's doing something interesting where if it feels story appropriate, you level up. So we had one of the fighters. He like trained another group of other. He trained another group, and after that training, they were like, "You level up." So we're gonna have out of sync player or levels, which I was like, I haven't really had that in a while, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Not since I ran Hot Springs Island, where I was actually using experience points, did players level up at different rates, and it was kind of fun. But yeah, I'm Goblin Ranger named Zix, and I'm running around shooting bows, and I've got bugs attached to me, which is kind of fun. I'm a
third level, you get to pick a subclass, right?
Yeah, I'm the Swarm Ranger. So
Swarm
I've got
Ranger.
bugs, and when I fire my bow, or I don't, well, I have a bow, but I've actually I throw rocks with magic stone. And so when I throw my stones, there's bugs attached, and they do extra piercing damage. It's just kind of fun.
You're like that character from Naruto that's the bug guy.
Yeah, that's what I was going for.
Yeah. I love that character. He's a great character.
Well, that was really fun. Higher levels, you can actually like fly a little bit because your bugs will lift you up. It's kind of fun. But that the last game that we played last night, we're trying to... we're right at the wall for the Mournland. Like there's just giant mists, and you see weird faces in the mist. And a Warforged walked out of it, so we're trying to figure out where this Warforged belongs. We ended up taking him apart, basically, to try and find his serial number, which was kind of interesting. And we found his serial number, but it doesn't correlate to anything that we know of. So now I think the plan is to go to a larger city and see what's happening there. And also try to get some tech that maybe... we can use that tech to take down the Mournland, or like basically, I don't know, return Seer to what it was before the Day of Mourning. So and that's the fun thing about Eberron, is nobody knows. Like there's no established lore about what is inside the Mournland, what actually happened there. And so it's all like in Kugo's head, and I'm just like, this is really cool not knowing. You know, like I know so much about Eberron, but nobody knows the answer to that. And so, yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Except Keith himself.
Yep. He's keeping it secret. Speaking of Keith Baker, he released a Eberron supplement recently that ties Eberron to Ravenloft. So there is potentially, if you wanted to utilize that supplement, you could, the Day of Mourning, the actual mists of Ravenloft, those could be tied. And so going into the Mournlands, you might wind up in this domain of dread that he's created. It seemed really interesting. So I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to do a review at some point on the channel because it's really cool.
Yeah. Very cool. So you're playing in 2 games, not running a game then.
I need to run a game.
Yeah. What's going on there?
Well, I got the game room set up and I want to run a game, but I just haven't found well, I don't know, I just need to put an SOS out there and see like what days are people available. But we're still playing Gloomhaven on Sunday nights. So then I'm like, well, now I have 3 nights of gaming. That's kind of a lot.
Can I add a 4th?
So can I add a 4th? And so if I start running one, I don't know if I need to cancel a game or just, I don't know. Or like maybe Gloomhaven will be every 2 weeks instead of every week, and then
I'm pretty sure if somebody keeps reading that Tollus book, there could be a Tollus campaign on the horizon.
That would be pretty good. So yeah, right now I'm amped about Eberron. I kind of want to run that.
That'd be good. What would your Eberron campaign be? What's the idea that you would want to do?
I'm not sure yet. You know,
you just like the world.
Just in Eberron, some kind of an adventure, and it could be exploring the Mournlands. It could be maybe the City of Spires, and I'll do a big like just a city campaign. I haven't really done that before. That'd be kind of fun.
When you had your Drow campaign.
And then the Drow one always comes up in the back of my head. And I just really kind of want to do that as well, where everybody's a Drow and you're working for the different houses, and there's like who's actually working for who's a double agent. And that game, I want to have a lot of like outside of game talk, one-on-one. So I know I can like give information to players that then could like come up there. And then there's been a lot of talk about doing Rod of Seven Parts Part 2. Because those players want to come back, and a lot of people have been pestering Ted, like, when are you guys going to come back? I really like this group. And so,
that's good.
So, I don't know.
They were good characters.
But I really like playing at the table, and I've got this whole table set up, and I kind of want to play. I want to roll real dice, you know? So.
Yeah. I feel like everybody up here where I'm at is enjoying the summer. We can get out finally. We had a year of being indoors. So I haven't really wanted to infringe on that too much, but I'm thinking once the temperature around here starts to drop, I think I'm going to be ready to jump back into that DM seat again because it's been a while.
Yeah.
And like, again, the job is starting. Been there long enough that I'm getting it, trying to get things under a handle. I think by the time that October, November, December time start happening, that might slow down a little bit enough that I can actually use brain power to figure out a cool campaign to run. Do I go back to Revenor? Do I do something totally different of all the millions of ideas we've done? I'm still strong on this campaign setting that there's a group of kingdoms or a group of just organizations, you can name them whatever you want. They're sending one of their best to the edge because the edge of the world has been found and nobody knows.
Well, that's another thing I was thinking, like that probably should be the next thing I run, you know? or my homebrew world of Endegar. I was like, oh, I want to do that, but then the more we talk about this end of the world like sideways hex crawl, the more I'm like, that seems really interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. And I was already thinking about how that first adventure would go because setting it when there's no infrastructure there. So it's not like there's been people there for 20 years and they've been able to figure out how to go down 2 miles, but then they've got stuck. I want to put the campaign at the beginning that this is it. Nobody knew it was here. We found it. What the hell do we do? And the thing that has brought attention to it is somebody has found like a vein right in the side of the cliff of like a silver or a gold vein because they went down, you know, they used enough rope that they could only get 200 or 300 probably feet before the rope became too heavy and would snap on its own. So like I wanted to figure out the physics of when does rope become so heavy in itself that it can't maintain itself, let alone somebody trying to climb on it. And that's where the adventure would start, is they've lost some people because ropes have snapped because they went too far. You can't see because there's this big cloud of moisture. Is this going to be
low magic? Because what about one wizard that has fly or an Aarakocra?
I already thought that. Okay. So there was a wizard, his spell runs out and he was never seen again.
Oh.
Because they tried to use Featherfall, they never came back. Now the flying races, that would be, you know, I was thinking even that they get so tired that at some point they haven't come back up. And I thought the reason is they go far enough down, they get so tired and then they plummet. And I'm thinking at a far enough way, I'm thinking like 3 miles, 4 miles, 5 miles. But then I started thinking, how fast do you fall? You know, how many miles an hour can you fall in, right? Yeah. So if it's like 60 miles an hour, that means if you went for an hour, you would have gotten 60 miles. So how big is this world? And then all of a sudden, so maybe it's thousands of miles down, and then there's a small cliff or a small piece that people are hitting when they get down there. Or are there creatures capturing people that go that far down, which is what I actually wanted to do. There have been big nets set up, and there's an underworld group, and I was thinking like a Duragar or a Drow, or just pick one of the underworld races that have set these nets up so that when people come plummeting down or they fly too far down, they get captured.
And then that's their
that's why they never get back up
and trading stuff. And so you got like Morlocks wearing like really cool swords and stuff from the surface.
Right. So and then so cool. Our adventurers are going to go and find out why are people not coming back after they go a certain amount down. So I thought, and then you could explore that world. And then what I wanted it to lead into was that as you go layer to layer to layer, you would start to see this is the epoch of this kingdom that kind of ruled the whole world. But then they had their heyday, and then they were crushed, and then it's just be like layers of stone, but it's layers of forgotten kingdoms. So it's the true Forgotten Realms that I've always wanted in the title. Like, you find them, you're there, you're like, you see architecture that's been just sheared off, and you're like, you're in another zone now because this architecture was different than the architecture we saw 100 miles up. Mm-hmm. So now we know we've hit another layer. And then do we go into this layer? Do we go see what's going on here? Do we go down to the next layer? Do we keep going down and let the players do what they want to do? And just explore off of that, just explore what those worlds are. And they're worlds stacked upon worlds, stacked upon worlds. Kind of like I always imagine Numenera and the Ninth World is.
Yeah.
World after world after world after world stacked on top of each other, and you can dig down and you can find it. It's there if you just know where to look. So that was kind of the idea I wanted to go with. Yeah. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. So, well, it sounds like we need to run games like there. That'd be really fun.
I'm going to put all those notes in our doc so we have all that stuff.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you again for the donation. That's always a nice and surprise. Helps us keep the lights on over here. Double Crit Failed just said good morning, so I think you're going to be sad that we're leaving right now because it is the
it's
end
an
of the
hour show.
But we're really happy that you guys got to hang out with us. We will be back next week with more of our personal.
I think it'll
games.
be a big show next week.
And probably a lot of cool Magic the Gathering stuff to talk
about.
Forgotten Realms, Magic the Gathering, and then we'll see what other news comes out of D&D Live. So yeah, we'll see you guys all next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Oh, wait, I'm not even set up. Here we go.